Good evening, I should say good morning. It's 10:41 a.m., Thursday, June 17th. Today we're going to go over a video that Earthling Ed put up April 15, 2020. Even though March 18th, 2020, he was told by PolitiFact that him stating that red meat eating is spreading viruses amongst the population was false, and he got flagged with it. Well, anyway, that didn't stop Ed, the con man, and his other fellow con man, Dr. Greger, who actually state that most of the viruses are coming from wet markets where they serve species of animals most people considered wild. Now, again, they keep referring that the spreading of viruses is coming from the eating of wild animals, not domestic cattle and chickens, but yet they'll pretend that's what's happened in domestic livestock production. They have no proof. They just create lie after lie. This clown you see in front of me, he's a partner with Blue Horizon Ventures, who's two owners of that are heavily invested. They're capitalists, venture capitalists, and they're heavily invested in the fake meat industry. And the partner of those two clowns is actually one of the executive producers of Game Changers, which Ed promoted. It's a con from beginning to end. It's been set up. This is their marketing guy. Here they create a person that people feel comfortable with, or they create an image that people feel comfortable with. And that would be the image of Jesus Christ. He wouldn't hurt anybody. He wouldn't lie. It's a marketing tactic. They always get somebody that seems familiar to you, that everybody can relate to. I have an aunt like that. I have an uncle. Or that could be my son. Or that could be, oh, Jesus, come back to earth. Now, in this video, I want you to watch how many times they keep referring to viruses coming from the wet markets, from China, from the eating of wild animals, but then insinuate, even after they told you that it also comes from domestic livestock production, which it doesn't, because unlike wild animals, domestic livestock animals in the first world country get inoculations and antibodies fed to them to keep them healthy, so that it's safe to consume them. I don't know what they do in other countries. That's their problem. But don't blame the meat industry in the United States and in the first world countries, because we're way ahead of the curve on this. And what they're saying here is pure nonsense and slander. They should be sued. Now let's go. We're going to listen to this together. Nice music. What do you expect from a food?
And also, if you enjoy the Disclosure Podcast, I also do a monthly Disclosure Podcast Q&A for my patrons. So it's a patron.
He calls this disclosure. He thinks he has information that nobody else has. In the industry he doesn't work in. He's full of shit.
Only podcast edition. And so if you sign up to my Patreon, you can support the activism that I do, and you also get access to this Q&A where my patrons ask me questions and I hopefully give insightful and thoughtful responses back to those questions. And we also have a Discord server as well. We chat about different issues. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about what's happening right now, which is the pandemic, and sharing lots of art.
Speaking about the pandemic, but look at this comment. The king of vegan activism with the king of plant-based doctors. I'm dreaming. How is he a doctor? He never did his residency or his internship. Never finished it. He doesn't qualify to be a doctor in a hospital. He's never treated one patient, Dr. Greger. Okay, let's get that straight. He hasn't cured anybody from anything. If he went to a hospital, Dr. Greger, in his license in his current state, he would not be on staff because he didn't do his internship or residency. He dropped out of the PhD program.
Articles and resources surrounding exactly what's been happening. Let's get into the podcast.
And another thing, Earthling Ed, who says his real name's Ed Winters, well, guess what? It's not. It's Edward Gaunt. All right? He's partnered up with Blue Horizon venture capitalists who invest heavily in these fake meat production companies, which they want to sell off for a huge profit. And Ed is just one of their pitchmen, salesmen.
And I'll just do a little introduction for Michael Greger, because a lot of us will know who Dr. Michael Greger is
Yeah, Dr. Greger is a con man, just like you.
from nutrition facts and from his work as a physician.
As his work as a physician, he hasn't done any work as a physician. He just reads studies. He hasn't treated one patient. He hasn't cured anybody from cancer. He hasn't cured anybody's heart problems with the vegan diet. It's a lie.
Focusing on solving the epidemic of chronic disease through
Dr. Greger has not cured one disease.
lifestyle changes, particularly a plant-based diet.
Plant-based diets have not cured one disease. They haven't cured cancer. They haven't cured anything.
So, a little brief overview of Dr. Greger. So he's a physician and a New York Times best-selling author, as well as...
That's all Dr. Greger is. He wrote a book because he couldn't pass the internship and a residency.
An internationally recognized speaker on nutrition,
A speaker, not a physician.
food safety, and public health issues. A founding member and
Dr. Greger has nothing to do with public health issues. People responsible for public health issues are those who hold a master's in public health, which Dr. Greger does not have.
fellow of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Dr. Greger is licensed as a general practitioner specializing in clinical nutrition. He is a graduate of the Cornell University School of Agriculture and Tufts University School of Medicine. In 2000,
Tufts University of Medicine is in Massachusetts, and we can find no license to say Dr. Greger is even licensed to practice medicine.
2017, Dr. Greger was honored with the ACLM Lifestyle Medicine Trailblazer Award,
which he's the founder. He gave himself an award.
And became a diplomat of the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine. Now,
yeah, he became the head of what he started. That's a real achievement.
I'm sure a lot of you have heard of his books. He's got a few books, How Not to Die. But actually, one thing that many of you...
How Not to Die. When the vegan diet, when applied to children, which he claims is healthy for all stages of life, has killed multiple children worldwide, and the children were seized by CPS in some cases in order to save their lives.
Maybe aren't aware, and I didn't know this until the pandemic, was that Dr. Greger is actually the former director of public health and animal agriculture for HSI, so Humane Society International. And
again, that is not a medical or veterinarian think tank. That is just another one of those bullshit vegan societies created that comes up with nonsense science. They're not a government entity, even though Ed is trying to express it as one.
a lot of his work when he was working for HSI was about infectious disease.
HSI. Let's call it like that so it sounds like FBI.
So things like mad cow disease, but also bird flu.
When he wrote his little part of the mad cow disease was over a fucking decade ago, and he did no science. He just gave an opinion piece, an editorial. That's not science.
And swine flu. And in fact, he wrote a book back in 2006 called Bird Flu, A Virus of Our Own Hatching. And so in this week's podcast episode, we're going to talk about the links between using animals and infectious disease, and also talk about the problems related with bird flu and why that...
First of all, bird flu was years ago, okay? And any animals infected with bird flu were immediately culled. Of course, that's how the domestic meat market works. All right? You get rid of the animals that are infected. Or you give them antibiotics. That's modern, that's modern agriculture, Ed.
That could potentially be the next pandemic, something we've been scared of before, but actually looking
scared of.
forward, something we should continue to be scared of unless...
You must continue to be scared because Ed tells you so. Be scared.
We make radical changes in the way that we all live as a species.
Be scared so we can make radical changes and you won't resist as they dust bowl the whole planet.
All right, well, I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and I'll cut right into it now.
All right, well, hi, Dr. Gregor. Thank you so much.
Be scared and buy my sponsor's fake meat products so I can buy another penthouse in London.
For joining me on today's podcast. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for all of the work you've been doing recently in spreading the message about pandemics, and also
spreading the message, the bullshit.
Encouraging people to kind of think beyond just what we're told, I suppose.
Encouraging people to think beyond me, Ed? Is that what you mean?
It's about where these pandemics start and originate from. And so, yeah,
look at this guy. I'm 56. He's 48 years old, maybe 49. Don't fucking tell me he's a health expert and he knows more about health than I do. Holy shit. If we in prison, he'd be washing my fucking drawers.
Thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. So the infamous kind of speech you did maybe, 12, 13 years ago now, is that kind of prophetic almost conference you did where you were...
It's not prophetic. We have cycles where we get viruses, okay? There's nothing prophetic of just looking at when the virus outbreak mutates to affect humans. They have a formula for it. You're going to keep getting these outbreaks. But what these guys are doing is trying to take the outbreak that happens in nature, like every cycle. Because nature just kills off the weakest. That's how nature works. And you notice that the C-19 took out all the older people. That's nature cleaning its queue. That's just how it is. It's to be accepted. You can't fight nature. What these guys are doing is to take the actual cycle of nature, use it to panic you, to put money in their fucking pockets. That's all this is.
Talking about pandemics and ways to prevent pandemics. Since you've done that talk, there's been 2 pandemics. Of course, we're currently in one.
I hate to say this to people, but viruses are predatory one-celled creatures. That's what they are. They infect you and they basically hijack your body to multiply. Just like any other predator. Everybody has a predator, whether they realize it or not.
Are you surprised that there's been 2 pandemics in the past decade? Does that come as a shock to you?
Ooh, 2 pandemics in the past decade. Of course there's going to be more pandemics. That's just from rapid population contact. And plus, in the modern age, you take a jet and you can fly into some place and get something and then bring it back. That has nothing to do with fucking eating meat.
Well, predicting that there's going to be another pandemic is like predicting the sun's going to come up the next day. I mean,
I totally agree. There's always going to be another virus. And changing your diet has nothing to fucking do with it. These 2 con artists are trying to fucking get you to buy their fucking fake meat products. This clown over here gets donations, over here on the left, gets donations from the Roush family. They're angel investors in these fake meat companies. They live in Canada. So not to get sued on his misinformation, this clown has his company incorporated in the UK, where this clown lives. So you can't sue him. But in this modern era, yes, we are. We got it. We'll get barristers in the UK and we'll take care of business. You guys are con artists, both of you. I'll tell you right to your face, you're con artists. We know about the charity that's been set up to funnel money to you, so you promote the charity's founders' businesses. It's not hard to figure out. These people are disgusting. You're killing children, you weasels. And you're panicking people into something that might kill them also.
it's always when.
MK?
Never if.
Mr. Mackey.
But then the next question is how bad. We got off lucky last time with the.
How bad? Okay.
2009 swine flu pandemic. It was only a Category 1 pandemic. Only about 500,000 people died.
500,000 people died out of almost 8 billion people. Probably more people slipped on soap the past month and died in the world than the pandemic victims.
But what we learned from that pandemic for the first time is that flu viruses can jump directly from pigs into the human population.
No, we didn't learn that for the first time. We knew about this for a couple of 100 years. That's why we give livestock antibiotics, you moron. We just recently discovered it.
Circulate throughout the world. We may not be so lucky.
May not.
Next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the current pandemic, it's obviously been traced, or likely has been traced back to the meat market in Wuhan.
Okay, again, he blames the meat market in Wuhan. Wrong. Recent evidence says it came out of the lab in Wuhan. It's a man-made virus. Wrong. And then what they're going to say now is, if you listen to this, wild animals, wild animals, wild animals. What do wild animals have to do with modern domestic livestock breeding? Nothing. They're two different species. One's in a controlled environment, the other is not.
Now, I was in the US a couple of years ago, and I came across these kind of live animal markets in Brooklyn. There's also some in Texas.
I know which live animal markets he's talking about. I've been there myself. I've seen a few. They're not breeding grounds for friggin' disease because you have to comply with the health codes. If you can't comply with the health codes and your animals keep spreading disease, they'll close you down. So to tell us that these live markets aren't concerned about disease that would hurt their business, yes, they are. This is pure moronic stupidity.
When I was there, what's the likelihood of something similar originating from one of these live animal markets in somewhere like the US?
See how he's trying to associate? The Wuhan wet market sells wild animals that they like to eat for medicinal purposes. You know, for fertility and, you know, their form of Viagra is a lot different in China than it is in the United States. Let's just put it that way. And what he's trying to do is twist your head to make it that Wuhan wet market, which sells wild animals, which may have caused, there's no absolute theory to follow to that actually where it came from. And a matter of fact, the theory is that now that it actually did come from the lab, because the virus has markings in it, genetic markers that said it came from that lab. So the fearmongers, without the information, went and jumped in and fearmongered more to direct your money into their pockets.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, it's...
Yeah, like you didn't know he was going to bring that up. Like you guys didn't work with this on this beforehand.
Easy for us kind of xenophobic Westerners to kind of poo-poo these, you know, back alley wet markets in Asia.
Well, you know, because it didn't come from a back alley wet market in Asia. If you're talking about back alleys, you must be referring to the abortions that you support.
But, for example, the last pandemic was largely made in the USA from industrial pork production facilities in the United
States. You see, you people who raise pigs, you made the disease. You just created it. You know, that's what Dr. Greger says. Yous are evil. We created the disease because we don't know any better. Dr. Greger, the doctor who never treated a patient or cured one patient, who has one person, there's one testimonial over his whole career that he cured them of something. I would be astounded if that person even exists.
United States. And there are these live bird markets, particularly in the Northeast, also California here in the States.
So all you people like from Colombia, you like your chicken alive, fresh before you kill it, and you like to inspect it to actually see if it's free of disease or anything. And you don't like you know, your meat with anybody else's hands on it. Oh yeah, Dr. Rigger. Okay.
that have had concerning outbreaks of these H7 viruses, which have infected people. There was a New Yorker infected in 2003. Then in 2015,
A New Yorker infected in 2003. Look, it's 2020. That's about 17 years, Dr. Gregor.
shelter cats across New York became infected.
Wait a minute. I thought we were talking about meat, particular that we eat. Now you're talking about cats? Shelter cats? We don't eat cats.
With this bird flu virus that was found on those live animal markets.
And this dummy, the two actors.
So one of the veterinarians, one of the shelter workers also got infected. So
you don't know how much I despise these people, especially since grown people have been killing their children under their tutelage. This asshole and this asshole. Telling everybody the vegan diet's healthy for all stages of life. And look at this guy. He looked like he was locked in a friggin' room with no light for 20 years.
This is a human-adapted virus, has not yet acquired the necessary mutations to transmit human to human effectively, which would trigger the next pandemic. But certainly live markets anywhere, Asia, the United States, Europe, anywhere else, are risk factors, and they should all be shut down. I think it's important to realize that
this guy's a living bobblehead.
Even now in China, when supposedly these live markets are shut down, no, they just shut down the raising of wildlife meat. So the wildlife trade for fur, still ongoing. Wildlife trade for traditional Chinese medicines, still ongoing. Can still raise these animals, slaughter these animals, sell these animals, but just...
no neurological damage here. I'm just imitating them. I just think it's funny. Now, what would you guys do if I started talking to you like this?
Not for meat, and all farm animals are exempted. In fact, they even went in and changed the definition of like frogs and turtles to livestock, to farm animals, so they could continue to market them. And so there are still these massive live bird markets, in which case, at some of these markets, you can actually sample bird flu viruses straight out of the...
Oh, God. I was watching this guy. He's cracking me up. He can't stay still. Nerve damage. Nerve. Look.
So even walking through one of these markets could be dangerous. The same thing was found at fairs here in the United States with swine flu viruses. There's so much virus being excreted by these animals, just gets in the air.
What has he got? Somebody slapping him on the back with a stick or something?
Causes people to get sick. And the more people that get sick, the more animals get sick, the more kind of pandemic spins at the roulette wheel is just...
First of all, you're not going to stop the next pandemic by changing people's diet. It has nothing to do with diet, idiots. Dumb and dumber. Thing one and thing two. Listen, viruses are going to come either human to human, which most of them do. Maybe you'll get some that are animal to human. You're not stopping them from spreading. There's no way to stop it from spreading by changing your diet. You can be vegan as hell, go outside, somebody who got a disease from a foreign country comes in and sneezes on you, you got it. How is changing your diet going to prevent this? It's all fiction. It's all made up. It's all fear-mongering. It's all made, if you eat the vegan diet, you're not going to get C-19. It's bullshit. Goddamn fake doctor with some kind of neurological disorder. He looks like a bobblehead on a rock trail in a Jeep.
Locking in the right mutations to then finally spread into the human population. So we really need to
Let me show you how important this is.
recognize that how we treat animals can have global public health implications.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that shocked me is after this current pandemic started, I was going.
Here comes fake Jesus now. With his total lack of knowledge, he has no credentials at all, and he believes the doctor that never treated a patient in his whole entire career as a doctor, who never did an internship or never did a residency. A residency is very important because it develops your bedside manner and actually lets you practice your art, which is medicine, which he never has.
And just typing into Google swine flu or avian flu, and just going on news that was just in the past week or past few weeks, and
Type in E. coli and look at the deaths it caused in 2006. And it's from spinach. Then it's romaine lettuce. There's all kinds of diseases that are spread by contact with produce. What the fuck are you talking about?
and it's all the time. There's been outbreaks of a new, I think it's H5N6 strain in Germany of bird flu. And it just happens all the time, everywhere. And I suppose the one thing that I mean, I know that you're concerned about from things that you've spoken about before is one of these strains maybe mutating into something that's...
Dr. Greger talks like he's in a Mick Jagger video, actually performing a dance.
Similar to H5N1 in terms of the fatality rate. So kind of combining like a highly infectious strain of avian influenza with a highly, a high fatality rate strain of avian influenza.
Yeah, so there's an important parallel here with coronaviruses. So until 2002, we thought all coronaviruses could do was cause the common cold. So we knew they were transmissible from person to person, but they just caused the sniffles. Then, boom, 2002, SARS emerges from these wet markets, these civet cats being raised in Guangdong province.
Civet cats. How many people here in the United States go to the market and buy civet cat meat? Raise your hand. This is what they're telling us that's how meat is spread in C19. Through civet cats. Most people don't even know what the fuck that is. These two idiots, these two fear-mongering morons think that nobody can figure out the scam they're running with the venture capitalists who set up these fake meat companies and a fake charity, and these guys benefit from it if they marketeer the fake fucking crap to you by spreading fear.
Province in China, in South China, and all of a sudden spreads around the world to over 20 countries, infects, about 8,000 people, 800 of which die. This is about a 10% mortality rate.
A 10% mortality rate, 8,000 out of 8,000 people in a population of 8 billion people. In 20 countries. 800 people in 20 countries. Let's take a look at that math. 800 divided by 20 is about 40 people died from this so-called pandemic in those 20 countries. There's more people who die slipping on a bar of soap in each one of those countries than it did from this fucking virus he's trying to scare you to death with.
All of a sudden, coronaviruses could be deadly. We had no idea. And then the thought is, well, wait a second. If it can be
we had no idea. Dr. Greger, are you trying to impress this film students with your over-exaggerated expressions? You think that's actually convincing us? We're looking at you. This is from 2020, 2 years ago. You don't even look this good anymore. All right? 2 years ago at 47. 47, you were in horrible shape. In 2020. Now you look even worse. Go see the state of this guy's appearance. And this man bun wearer, he looks like he's got so much estrogen in his body that some I think he's having some kind of problem. His thinking is screwed up because his hormones are out of whack. And that's what the vegan diet does to you.
Transmissible and deadly, well then there's no reason that this.
You know what's proven to be deadly, Dr. Gregor? Your advice that veganism is healthy for all stages of life. Because it's killing children. And CPS has had to take a bunch of them in their custody to prevent them from dying from your fucking false idolatry ideals.
Class of coronaviruses couldn't then trigger a global pandemic. And we got another warning call in 2012.
This guy's head moves more than a chicken when it's eating.
The emergence of MERS linked to intensive camel farming in the Middle East. Another deadly coronavirus disease killed about 1 in
This guy talks like a rooster raised by Mick Jagger.
3. We kept having warning sign after warning sign, but of course we didn't listen. And in fact, the wildlife markets were shut down after SARS in China, but poorly enforced, rapidly reopened, and civet cats were back on the menu within months.
So how many civet cats do we eat a year in the United States or in England? You morons.
And so similarly, the current wildlife ban in China is still only set to be temporary as these whopping loopholes.
Why are you saying what happened in China, which has low-grade health codes on their meat markets, and saying that's what's happening over here in the United States? One country screwed up and spread the disease. The other countries have health codes. They didn't have an outbreak there. And then to mention now it's being discussed that yes, the disease, the C-19, did come from a lab in China. But look at him. He's crazed. Look at this crazed lunatic. Look at his face. He's a lunatic. He believes that staring at you and using facial expressions that you would get from your grandmother when you were getting yelled at is going to work on you.
If we don't permanently change the way we interact with animals, then we are just going.
If these two don't change permanently how they interact with the rest of the human race by feeding us misinformation, more children are going to die. Do you believe that there should be consequences, that these two guys should face some kind of consequences? I think they should.
Going to look at more and more pandemics coming down the pike. I mean, we are in unprecedented.
See, people, you eating a hamburger, you're going to cause another pandemic. Pure bullshit. Speak about China, that they ate civet cats, but for somehow you eating a beef burger, it's going to kill everybody. Fear-mongering. False information.
Unprecedented era in human history. We've had dozens of newly emerging and re-emerging diseases, most of which coming from animals. You know, the AIDS virus blamed on the bushmeat trade in Africa.
Did you just hear what he said? He blamed AIDS on Africa, on bushmeat. And look at this clown. Have you ever heard such a fucking racist statement? AIDS is a sexually transmitted disease. Have you ever heard, well, I ate at this restaurant and I got HIV positive? No, never, never.
Killing chimpanzees. We have SARS and COVID-19 for the wildlife trade, these live animal markets. We have, swine flu, mad cow, when we started these cannibalistic feeding practices. The deadliest plague in history was a bird flu virus that emerged from the trenches in World War I to kill 50 million people in the pandemic of 1918, but from a virus.
Well, doctor, it's not 1918. All right? The survival rate from COVID, or I should say the death rate for people who get COVID, is less than 1%. Fear mongering idiot. Look at him. Look at him. Look at his face. Look at the maniacal glee. How he's spreading the lie and he enjoys it. Look, this sick sick bastard that likes killing children. That's what you got right there. A doctor. Dr. Mengele in the flesh. Reborn.
Standpoint, we have those same trench warfare conditions today in every industrial chicken shed.
Yeah. We got the same conditions in trench warfare as we got in the chicken shed, where there's dead bodies all over the place. First of all, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. My aunt and uncle had a farm. There were no dead animals all over the place. It wasn't allowed. All right? Because first of all, it would stink up the place and spread disease, so it was cleaned up. Back in the trenches during World War I, you couldn't go clean up the bodies because you would end up being one of those bodies. You get blasted, okay? Now, the daily routine for every farmer, which when the inspector comes around has to be done, or you get your license suspended from breeding livestock. You have to have a license. You have to have a veterinarian. You have to have the place inspected because sooner or later people are going to consume the product that you are providing. And it's inspected. Now, if you go every day, the routine was the chickens are roosting. They're in their cages. You have to take them and put them in the feedlot. There they roam around and they get fed. You clean all the the animal waste. You clean it up. You deposit it in a repository, and you actually use that either to fertilize your own fields, or you sell that to another farmer, or you just give it away as fertilizer. It's common practice. After it's cleaned and the chickens have been given their feed, their antibiotics, you're in there taking the eggs if you raise them for eggs. Usually you do both. And then when the chicken goes past its egg laying stage, it gets sent to the slaughterhouse and you get to eat some healthy chicken meat. This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Maybe in China they run it as a trench, but here in the United States you just can't do that. They'll close you down. This guy's just a fucking liar. And his overdramatic friggin' motions and stuff tell you he's trying to emphasize this with emotion to get you to believe it. Look at him.
In every industrial egg operation, confined, crowded, stressed, but by the billions, not just millions.
Confined, crowded, stressed. You're an idiot. If you have free-range chickens, okay, which most farms do now, that's a new trend, or if you house your chickens in a wire cage, those chickens come out every day to feed. They're out of those cages most of the day until it's time to roost. In a free-range farm, they actually go into the hen house, which is crowded with chickens and their eggs, and they stay in overnight, and in the morning they come out and go on the free range. It's the same thing that happens at the farm, even if you keep them in close quarters in wire cages. They're not in there all day. They're brought out. At night, they have to have a place to roost, a place to sleep. That's where they go in the wire cage. He's an idiot. He's an idiot.
Billions. And now, as you said, we have viruses H5N1, H7N9.
And they all came from livestock. And meanwhile, they're talking about civet cats, which nobody has even ever eaten in the United States, probably. Don't even know what the fuck it is.
That could kill millions around the globe.
So you better go vegan or you'll die from friggin' some kind of disease that you never heard of. by eating meat that you never heard of from some wild animal that's probably never been heard of in your area.
If they lock in those necessary mutations right now, the CDC.
You can't lock in mutations. Now, this is coming from a fucking supposed doctor. Each vaccine is a guess of what the virus will mutate to the next year. And sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they get it wrong. You're taking an educated guess. Lock it in. You can't lock it in. It's all a guessing game. They talk like they fucking could just get, they're never wrong. They are. This guy turns my fucking stomach. How the fuck do you get somebody like this fucking dumb could actually be associated with the title doctor in this country? It just goes to show your education system is totally fucked up beyond reason. That this guy can call himself a fucking doctor. This clown, this charlatan, this false-mouthed, twisted-tongued bastard who's responsible for convincing people that veganism is healthy for all ages of life and children have died on the diet, yet he still continues, even though there's proof in the court transcripts that said the vegan diet killed him. The doctors told him to take the children off the vegan diet, and doctors like him said, no, listen to me, and they died.
Considers H7N9, which rose to ascendance in 2013, killing about 40% of the people infected, as our greatest pandemic risk.
Why do I keep referring back to a disease that killed 40% of the people who had it to a disease where less than 1% died that had it? It's called fear-mongering 101. Go vegan. Buy my fake meat patties, please, so I can make another couple of $1 million from my sponsors.
They recently released a threat scenario suggesting millions of Americans could die.
Millions of Americans could die. Today, tomorrow, we could have a hurricane or an earthquake in California. So what? Going vegan is not going to prevent it. It's a lie. It's bullshit. If I fly to China and just happen to bump into somebody who has some kind of disease and somehow I get infected with it and I fly back and I sneeze on the airplane, what the fuck does red meat have to do with that? Fucking idiots.
With an H7N9 pandemic. And so the silver lining here of COVID-19 is that hopefully the world will wake up and look around after, millions of lives lost, billions locked down, trillions of...
This guy's been vegan so long he's actually starting to turn into a chicken. But then a chicken does eat meat if you give it to him.
Dollars lost around the world. Finally sit down and take very seriously what those of us in this movement have been saying forever.
Okay, I'm the chicken man.
And that is we need to accelerate the movement.
Accelerate the movement through fear-mongering.
Towards plant-based milks.
Plant-based milks, which have no nutritional value whatsoever.
Plant-based meats.
Plant-based meats. Gee, wow. Did he even wait? This is all the stuff that they're promoting. This is all the stuff that their venture capitalist buddies are seeding these businesses. They want a return of interest. These guys are getting paid to push that. That's the first things they tell you to buy. Plant-based milk, fake meats. That's what their buddies at the venture capital firm that are paying these guys manufacture.
Plant-based egg products.
Plant-based egg products, all the stuff that the Roush family seeded with their venture capitalism. Set up a fake fucking charity. Pay this guy to fucking tell everybody to eat their products. Spread it defame the meat industry, defame milk, defame cheese, defame everything, so we can replace it and take over the food market so we become extremely wealthy. And in return, you will too, Dr. Greger, won't you? You lying bag of shit.
Not just for human health, for chronic disease sake, not just
Again, veganism does not cure any disease.
for global warming.
Agriculture is only 4% of the pollutants. 14% of the pollutants, CO2, comes from transportation, which it takes to get your avocados from Mexico to the United States, from Mexico to England. You know, those use the most fuel than anything else and pollutes the most, but blame agriculture, which only makes 4% of the pollution, the CO2 released.
Global health is taking a
Correction, greenhouse gases.
whole nother view now. Now there's pandemic risk as well.
So run around fear mongering. It's going to destroy the climate. Run around telling you it's going to give you disease. Spread all of these rumors so we could sell fucking fake meat. Look at fucking Ed. He can't contain himself from laughing at this fucking clown. Look at him. He has to contain himself from Chicken Man, Mr. Mackey from South Park. Okay? He looks like he's on the dashboard. He's a bobblehead on the dashboard of a truck in the Baja 1000 race.
And so we just need to move away towards healthier products, healthier for ourselves, healthier for future generations, and healthier in terms of reducing the risk of pandemic infectious disease.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is.
Well, maybe we need to do those things, but you guys aren't the answer. Going veganism is not the answer. These are not doctors. The doctor that has a GP has never practiced medicine. All he is a talking head on YouTube.
It's the key to solving so many of the world's current issues is just simply changing our lifestyles and how we use animals. One thing that I think scares me about.
You have no right to tell anybody how to live. Let's make this point here, Ed. I looked at your Blue Horizon Ventures. They said they're going to make legislation to take meat off people's tables. No, we're not going to stand for it. You and your fake Jesus life aren't going to fucking do it, Ed. You try to take away people's right to raise their kids nutritionally complete, you're going to have a fucking problem, Ed.
The 1918 pandemic is the fatality rate was only between 2 to 3%. But if we're talking about
the 2 to 3%, the fatality rate was from prior diseases, and it's even less on COVID, less than 1%. But yet they won't stop fear-mongering. They won't stop fucking lying.
A strain of avian influenza that has a 40% fatality rate. I mean, the amount of damage that could cause is almost...
Again, they're going for a maximum effect. Avian flu, 40% death rate. But we're not living to avian flu right now. But you see, that won't generate the fear they're looking to generate in you. So they keep going back to that high death rate to alarm you. All right, to put you in a state of fear, so you'll give up your security and your rights to eat whatever you want, and let these guys protect you from getting avian flu, which you might possibly die from. Let me put it to use, people. You're going to die someday, and there's nothing you could do to stop it. And these fake health gurus can't give you everlasting life, because he's not really Jesus. Figure it out.
Almost unimaginable. And we think about the social upheaval that's happening right now because of COVID-19. But imagine if the same virus right now was killing 40% of the people that it hit. And was
imagine now if the same virus was killing 40%. Oh my God! Oh! You see what they're trying to do? You see? Out of their mouths, they're trying to scare you. It's bullshit. You know something? When the older generation lived through the panic of 1918, they don't even fucking mention it, even after 50 million people died worldwide. That's how concerned they were about it. But the fucking fair merchants over here, they're going to sell the fair to get you to buy the product. Sell the fair, buy the product. Sell the fair, buy the product. It's even written in most marketing fucking classes. It's despicable.
Was being completely non-discriminatory. It wasn't just people with underlying health conditions or of a certain age. It was anyone of any age, 40%. I mean, society would collapse.
That, I mean, I'm so glad you...
And you know where it would collapse? The first people to get wiped out from a virus? People whose immune system has been compromised by high oxalate ingestion. Where you ingest so many oxalates it turns off your immune system. I'll tell you the truth. You'll be the first ones to die because your immune system would be made inoperable because of oxalate consumption. You look up acetic acid diathesis, it's been known for 172 years. Vegans, you're not the ones who are going to survive. You're going to be the ones to die first.
brought that up. I mean, this COVID-19 is just a dress rehearsal, right? I mean, look,
COVID-19's a dress rehearsal. I'm a doctor who hasn't practiced any medicine or ever stepped foot inside a hospital or treated the patient. But listen to me. I wrote a book that people bought.
Doctors are still showing up. The food is still being restocked on.
Look at the fucking circles around his eyes. This is about... I've seen circles like this. Some guys get them after a bar fight, and they got both eyes blackened, and this would be about maybe 2 weeks later, the eyes healing up. You know, oxalates? You see what this is? You can go to the Oxalate Hyperoxaluria Foundation and go look at the chart where oxalates will show their presence in your body. It's around the eye cavity because there's a space in your eye, an eye cavity, liquid filled. Right there, your eye cavity. It's like a jelly-like substance. So oxalates like to go there when the body runs out of space to store these oxalates. And then they change the pigmentation of where they're actually being stored in. That's why you get dark circles. Also, if you have people that are on dialysis, and I had somebody that I knew that was on dialysis, this 18-year-old girl who had problems, kidney transplant, and her kidneys were failing. Since her body wouldn't filter out the pollutants in her body too well, she had dark circles around her eyes until after she went to dialysis. So this is what they call dialysis raccoon eyes. His kidneys aren't functioning at 100% because his diet is laden with oxalates, and his kidneys are basically being tortured by all the high oxalate content he's eating.
On grocery store shelves. The internet may be slow, but it's still on. The electricity is still on. We're still getting, clean drinking water, right? All of that can go away if even suffering like 25% of the workforce out.
This guy's head moves more than a Pez dispenser on a sugar junkie's hand.
And so, right, there's no reason. In fact, the World Health Organization actually convened a panel of experts to ask the question, wait a second, would a virus like H5N1, H7N9 necessarily have to ratchet down its lethality, its flip of the coin human lethality down in a pandemic situation? Because the worst pandemic in history was only 2%, with the last bird flu virus jumping the species barrier.
2%. You heard it from him. You heard it from this freaking Uncle Fester-looking ghoul.
And the answer was not necessarily. In other words, the nightmare scenario that you just described.
Nightmare. Fear, 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 and more fear. Buy a fake fucking shit.
So here in the States, 60 million Americans of 60 million Americans get the flu. Imagine if it turned deadly. So
The flu kills people every year, Dr. Greger.
instead of, even here in the U.S., probably the worst case scenario estimates for COVID-19, 500,000 American deaths. That's, 1 in 3,000 people. What if instead it was, 10 times worse?
What if it was? What are you going to do? You can't do shit. You're a doctor who never treated a patient. What are you going to do? You're going to go stay in your penthouse and fucking lock the doors and hide. That's what you're going to do. Your veganism ain't going to cure shit or stop a fucking one person from getting C19 or that imaginary infection that you see in the future. It's not going to do crap. These guys are so fucking misinforming people, it's fucking ridiculous. What are you going to do, Dr. Greger? Sell magical fucking snake oil to people? That's all you're doing. And that's what veganism is. These people are fucking disgusting. Even though the fact that, let's just put it this way, probably veganism has killed more small children than C19, you fucking buttholes.
20 times worse. 1 in 15 dead. 1 in 6 dead. 25 times worse. This is, that's why it's so critical.
Let's make the fake imaginary threat real. Let's turn it up. Let's make the numbers against you fucking even worse. And then blame red meat. Let's associate red meat with it. Not one fucking iota of scientific fucking data. Not one. Nothing but fear. And I'm sorry, America. A lot of you are just fear junkies.
Critical. And that's why can't emphasize enough the risk that the world is taking.
When I get up in the morning, it's a fucking risk. I might trip over my sneakers and smash my skull on the floor. Stop fucking trying to associate red meat with some kind of risk that you can't actually show causation and effect with your fucking epidemiology crap science. These people piss me off. The more I listen to them, the more fucking retarded they sound.
Taken, it may, hopefully won't come to this, but we don't tend to shore up the levees until after a disaster, and it may take a pandemic that wipes out millions of people before the world realizes the true cost of cheap chicken.
And exactly. And I think that's the scale.
The true cost of cheap chicken is so everybody can have proper nutrition. That's why it's subsidized, so everybody can have proper nutrition, you buttholes. And what's going to happen to produce prices if everybody takes meat off the plate like your fucking company Blue Horizon Ventures wants to do? I got a video where they state it right there. What's going to happen to the price of produce? It's going to go skyrocket. So you're going to take poor people and take them from the hard position they are in and put them between a rock and a hard place. Fucking people, man. The audacity. They just look at they look at the cover of the book and they think they know what the whole book says. They're fucking Cliff Note scientists.
Scary thing, isn't it? Is we hope that we listen to what the world's telling us and what these infectious diseases should be.
What's the world telling you? We had infectious disease since the modern man started living in cities. Okay? It's not going to change because we haven't stopped living in cities. Diseases are going to come. Nature's going to take its course. That's where we lived in an enclosed ecosystem. That's the Earth. Now, if the Earth goes out of balance, it has this unique way of balancing out the population. It releases viruses come in contact, and it culls the population. It goes for the whole animal kingdom. Everything has a predator. Stop fighting stuff that a battle you can't win, and stop creating this false narrative that you've got the answer, and the answer is veganism, and all we have to do is buy the products that you endorse. It's false. It's bullshit. It's just a fucking sales pitch.
Able to teach us. But I guess the risk is that we just go back to business as usual when it dissipates. Why do you think that it's not something that our governments do take more seriously when the risk is
God, now we got to watch this chicken on crack perform.
so catastrophic? I mean, apart from climate change, the United Nations says it's the second biggest risk to human health. So why don't we take it more seriously as a risk?
Well, because there are very important moneyed interests involved. So,
you know, this fuck has nerve to say that when he takes money from the Roush Foundation, who are a bunch of venture capitalists in the soy milk, in the fake meat, and this fake eggs, this one too, connected to Blue Horizon Venture Capital, where the CEO is his partner, and the creator of Game Changers, one of the executive producers, is on the board.
For example, here in the States, we continue to feed millions of pounds of medically important antibiotics to farm animals by the truckload.
Well, gee, why do we do that, Dr. Greger? So they don't get an infectious disease and spread it. You fucking idiot.
Something that every single human health organization on the planet is allied against. You say, wait a second. If every public health group on the planet...
That must be part of the vegan language.
Says it's not a good idea to be feeding these critically important drugs to animals just...
They're critically important now that the animals don't get antibiotics so they won't spread disease. That's Dr. Greger's thinking. That's coming from a doctor. Let the animals get disease and spread it and all die out. Let them go extinct. That's Dr. Greger. Boy genius.
To fatten them faster for slaughter.
Okay.
Then why hasn't it been done? Why hasn't it been done? Because they're going up against two of the most powerful industries: the pharmaceutical industry that sells all these drugs, and big ag, the animal.
Big ag. Big ag. And meanwhile, he supports and takes money from fake ag, fake meat, fake eggs. He takes money from them. But those other places, they take money from big agriculture. But he's not taking any money from the Roush family who's invested in all these fake meat products. What a fucking scam artist. Bald-headed old scam artist.
Agriculture industries, they have so much power hold, so much a stranglehold over our political...
Stop. This prick here, you know who donates to him? Adam and Evie Schiff. 2 congressmen. So he's telling me he doesn't have political influence involved in selling his fake products? Give me a break.
Political system that even things that are just so slam dunk, common sense, scientific consensus, people are dying, are being consistently ignored. But again, there's the silver lining with COVID-19. Hopefully we'll get a pandemic that's just bad enough that people...
Did you hear what he just fucking said? Hopefully we'll get a big pandemic. Hopefully some of us will die and then we'll do what he wants. He'll use it to fearmonger some more. You just heard it. Listen to it again. He wants us to die. So
then why hasn't it been done? Why hasn't it been done? Because they're going up against two of the most powerful industries: the pharmaceutical industry that sells all these drugs, and big ag, the animal agriculture industries. They have so much power hold, so much
Now I'm running this over again because I want you to hear how he hopes that we get a big pandemic that kills enough people. I want you to listen to him.
Stranglehold over our political system that even things that are just so slam dunk, common sense, scientific consensus, people are dying.
Science is not done through consensus. Now listen to what he's hoping for. He hopes that your children get sick and die, this sick fuck.
are being consistently ignored. But again, there's the silver lining with COVID-19. Hopefully we'll get a pandemic that's just bad enough that people will pay attention so that an even worse pandemic can be prevented in the future. But of course, not bad enough.
So hopefully enough of us will die in the next pandemic, just enough of us to make us come to our senses and do what he wants, which is basically have mass third world famine in first world countries by putting children on vegan diets or going on a diet that's missing at least 20 nutrients. And then, they could bring it up a tick on killing the children with their misinformation.
Minimum amount of suffering that will.
Yeah, we need to suffer. We need to suffer. He's a fucking lunatic, this bastard.
Actually get us to prevent an even larger amount of suffering later on.
You know something? Oh, God. This guy actually disgusts me. He's no better than Gary Yoforski. He's no fucking better. Telling you that people got to suffer to follow his ideology, which is basically telling you that veganism is healthy for all stages of life. It cures all kinds of diseases. It'll make C19, HIV, Ebola, all of it disappear like magic if you eat a bucket of fucking kale. And then YouTube will tell me that I shouldn't be listening to his videos and critiquing them. He just says that hopefully we get another pandemic which kills enough people, which includes my children, your family. Hopefully fucking truckers don't keep stepping on the gas when you assholes are protesting at the meat plant. How's that sound?
I mean, that is the hope, isn't it? I think one of the risks is that potential of people, as we say, employing that almost xenophobic tendency of just accusing Chinese culture of being the problem.
First of all, it wasn't being xenophobic, accusing Chinese culture. And a matter of fact, you guys sat here on this video accusing the Chinese of fucking everything with their back alley wet markets. That's you, not us. We don't give a shit what goes on in China. We're worried about what goes on here. You guys brought it up. And you're the guys who disparaged the Chinese. The Chinese do as the Chinese want. Americans do as the Americans do. Not what you dictate, you two fucks.
And overlooking the fact that industrialized agriculture in anywhere across the world plays a part in these pandemic risks. I suppose if we don't change, the chance for
you are not the author of change. You sit in your fucking fake meat restaurant, and shut the fuck up. And stop wishing that more of us die so you could sell more of your fake meat. Man, these people are disgusting lowlifes. People, you actually don't listen to these people and what they're saying, and then go look at their partners and look what they got planned. They don't give a fuck about you or your future. They just give a fuck about how much money they're getting. And fear-mongering on a disease that killed less than 1% of the people who get it. And then comparing it to HIV, Ebola, avian flu, killed 40%. You gotta go vegan. You gotta go vegan. You gotta go vegan. Give us money. Buy the fake eggs. Buy the fake meat. Buy the fucking soy milk that we manufacture. And that's going to magically stop some kind of disease you get from, say, casual sex. You stupid fucks.
Pandemic, it's not really an if, it's always going to be a when, right? Like, as long as we do what we do. I mean, obviously, the industrialization of agriculture isn't the only risk potential, but it's one of the biggest drivers in risk potential. And so I guess if we don't change, then it will always be a matter of when the next one happens. How bad will it be, as opposed to, otherwise we're just playing that fingers crossed game, aren't we? Just hoping that it never happens. But of course, mathematically, it always must do.
This asshole got flagged on his Instagram account for making such statements that the CDC said something that he claimed the CDC said something that they never said. And PolitiFact went in and fucking flagged him for it. And that happened in March 18th, 2020. I remember the fucking date. He's a fucking lawyer too.
Do at some point if we don't change.
And it's getting worse and worse. Never before have we seen flu virus.
It's not getting worse and worse. The deaths from the previous pandemic and this pandemic have went down greatly. All right? Since 1918, people dying of infectious disease has gone down thanks to the modern medical community and the diet. It would have been worse if you would have just left people on a vegan diet and their immune system was compromised by oxalates. There would have been a higher death count, you bald-headed idiot.
Viruses. One of the few viruses capable of infecting literally billions of people within a matter of months. Never have we seen a flu virus with an Ebola-like lethality. 50% there are strains of Ebola that only kill.
First of all, you just said the avian flu was 40% death mortality rate. How many people actually got it? You don't present that. Now you're comparing it with Ebola. How many people actually got that? The numbers are probably localized to some communities in Africa. Please, stop with the bullshit and the fear-mongering. Your bullshit and fear-mongering are killing kids. They're giving kids are dying from malnutrition or suffering from it because of your bullshit. And that's reality, not this fucking fear-mongering. There's been court cases in Atlanta, Georgia. Go look it up. 2 parents went to jail for life for not taking the child off the vegan diet when the doctor told them to. The child died. Malnutrition. Direct cause from the vegan diet that you endorse, you promote. You're the epicenter of all of this, and you should be held responsible for those child deaths worldwide.
50%. That's what we're facing with something like with some of these bird flus. And
no, that's not what we're facing. Where is the disease that killed people 50% rate? Is it here now? Is it in the future? Where is it? What is it going to be? You're telling people to panic over something that doesn't exist. You're making a straw man. Like you tell everybody else, the vegan, it's a straw man argument. Well, what the fuck is this?
There's no biological reason that they couldn't trigger a pandemic. Even the coronavirus is, again, MERS, 1 in 3 have died who've gotten it. SARS, 1 in 10. Currently with COVID-19, probably we're looking at about a 0.5% case fatality rate. And so, I mean, that's why it could just be so much worse. So,
oh, yeah, and he wants to be so much worse. If it gets really bad and he can fucking convince you it's agriculture that's doing it, livestock farming, he'll be a fucking rich man. He doesn't give a fuck what you get. He won't be out there treating people. He'll be upstairs in his penthouse counting the fucking money he got out of all your fucking people he fairmongered. Figure it out, people. Come on, you're smarter than this.
As devastating, and not to underplay how devastating COVID-19 is, but I mean, it could get so much worse. And so that, I think, is the message that public health professionals have been shouting from the rooftops for decades and need to get out there.
You know, if there was a big outbreak of a disease that really was killing people, you know what this guy would be doing? Masturbating.
The American Public Health Association, the largest and oldest association of public health professionals in the world, has called for a moratorium on factory farming for more than 20 years. The Pew Commission on Industrial Animal Production, the same thing. We got to ban some of these practices like just...
Earthling Ed is a complete idiot on this subject, which just closed down all the farms. He's saying, well, you're going to convert all the grazing land to cropland, and it'll solve world hunger. You fucking idiot, Ed. You never heard of marginal land where some cases farmers buy it just to graze their cattle on because that's all it can do. You can't grow anything on it. It doesn't produce a profitable yield. But this stooge pretends, you know, he's Jesus. He knows everything. If Jesus says so, it's got to be real. Jesus would never lie. And that's the cue of the kind of marketing that they're using. And this guy, he tries to convince you like he's like a a high-powered doctor who saved patients by injecting them with a bushel of kale and instantly cured their cancer. That's what he's pretending to be. But this cocksucker never did a day in his residency or his internship. He hasn't laid hands on a patient. He hasn't even laid hands on a fucking dog. He's hailed nothing. He's just a charlatan.
Station crates and battery cages, you cram animals together. You know, when we over.
You know what? The way he says these animals are crammed in a cage, him and him need to be crammed in a cage together in fucking prison for the next 20 years for all the deaths to children that died. These people piss me off. They're so out of touch with reality. They're living in unicorn land, and another kid. Guarantee the next couple of weeks there'll be more kids dead from fucking veganism being forced on them.
Overcrowd animals in these cramped, filthy football field-sized cages to lie beak to beak or snout to snout atop their own waist. It's just a breeding ground for disease, right? The sheer number of animals, the overcrowding, the stress crippling their immune systems, the ammonia.
Crippling the immune systems. You mean like acetic acid does, you idiot? That you look like a zombie from fucking one of the zombie movies?
From all the decomposing waste burning their lungs, the lack of fresh air, the lack of sunlight. I mean, put
the decomposing waste. This guy's a fucking idiot. He really is. He really is a moron. They never been on the farm. You don't leave decomposing waste. You don't want to kill your own cattle or your own livestock. You clean up after it. There's people there that clean up after it. What's going to happen to your reputation if you're a friggin' a livestock breeder and your animals are always sick? Nobody's going to buy them from you anymore. The market will sort that out right away. Not Dr. Greger. There's rules and regulations that the FDA and the agricultural watchdogs lay out. They'll close down your fucking farm. These guys got no authority over that. They're boobs. They're idiots. They're two marketeers. That's all they're doing. Using fear to market their bullshit vegan products. They get paid for this. The fake charity pays them. The fake charity that's directly controlled by the capital venturists that created these alternative fake meat companies.
Put all these factors together, you have the kind of perfect storm environment for the emergence and spread of these so-called super strains of influenza. These factory farms are a public health menace, but it may not be enough just to, tinker.
Factory farms are a public health menace. Where are the diseases that they spread? You show us where a disease came from a factory farm, infected people, and killed them. You can't. You know why? Because you're full of shit. This guy's a demon. The green demons, that's what they are, the green demons. The green demon child killers.
Around the edges and change some of these worst practices. Maybe we really need to shift entirely.
The fuck is wrong with this man? Look at it. Look at Ed. Look at him. He can't. He looks like he's fucking gonna start laughing. Even he knows his antics are ridiculous.
Away from animal agriculture entirely, and there is hope on the horizon. No longer are these plants.
Let me tell you something, people. When the next diseases come, there's nothing really you could do. Okay, it's nonsense. These guys earn hope. This isn't Jesus. Okay. Jesus doesn't run around consorting with people like him who hope that we get another pandemic that kills just enough of us so the world wakes up and buys his vegan products. There's the demon right there.
Plant-based meats, just some kind of niche market for vegetarians.
Plant-based meat can't be just a niche market for vegetarians. There he goes. Here comes the sales pitch. Here they are. Look, he's squirming. They're counting the money already.
Now, some of the biggest meat processors in the world, Tyson, Purdue, Smithfield, biggest pork producer in the world, just released an entirely plant-based line of products, right? Look, they're just in the business of making money. If they can make as much money selling plant-based meat than any other kind of protein, they'll do that. And so, I mean, that I see is the.
And what will you do when there's mass malnutrition going on because the plant-based meat is not fortified with all the nutrition that the human body needs? And there's certainly a lot of unknown variables that we get from meat that scientists don't even know yet. But let's just replace it with something that's a piss poor substitute for it. An imitation, a pale copy, and not even a good copy at all. If you take a piece of that fucking burger, fake burger and real burger, you put it in front of a cat, see which piece he rejects and see which piece that he accepts. Bobby's perspective already done this. Nobody eats it. It's sort of like saccharin and sugar with ants. You can put a bowl of saccharin over here and a bowl of sugar. Put the saccharin right in front of the ant pile. The ants will go around it, reject it, and go for the sugar. I am not eating their compound-made meat, processed with the use of hexane, a known neurotoxin, and then to get the pea isolate or soy isolate, or the canola oil that's also extracted with hexane. I'm not eating it.
The glimmer of hope on the horizon is that
the glimmer of hope on the horizon is everybody buys their bullshit, starts buying these products, the children start dropping like flies, and older people die quicker, because, they're worried about, their Fabian socialism. They're worried about population, because God forbid if the population increases over their ability to control. They don't like that. Even though we have enough food on the earth to feed 10 billion people, we don't have enough people to manage 8 billion people already. So that's what happens. People start to break away and form their own society. Other societies form when the population increases that much. You'll have offshoots from one culture that create another. And that culture will not want to be under control of the other cultures. They know this. These guys are fucking... These are the fool's errand boys right here that do the fool's errands for these people with the money.
There may be a market solution to this after all. And cultivated meat, another possibility, right? Growing meat from, muscle cells in the lab. You don't have to worry.
Growing meat in the lab. Sounds delicious.
Worry about fecal pathogens like Salmonella, E. coli if you're making...
Well, I got news for you. E. coli outbreak that happened in 2006 came from spinach and killed a 2-year-old. Don't tell me you're going to make fucking pathogens just disappear. It's a lie. Most of the diseases that come from food poisoning are related to unwashed produce like spinach, romaine lettuce, etc., etc. So fecal matter is sprayed on the crops to fertilize them, you boob.
Meat without the guts. You don't have to worry about respiratory viruses when you're making meat without the lungs, right? Now, I'm not saying these are healthy personal choices, right? Meat is meat, but from a pandemic risk standpoint, zero risk.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You're telling me that if you don't eat meat, you're not going to get HIV if you were at the bathhouse screwing your boyfriend. You're not going to get Ebola if somebody who has Ebola happens to cough around you. You're no longer going to catch the common cold if you stop eating meat. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Dr. Greger? What a bullshit artist.
And I think that probably surprises a lot of people is, we're in something called the age of the plague now, right? Because of industrialized agriculture.
Age of the plague.
But
just make shit up. Other words, we have a death rate that's less than 1%. Probably down to 0.005, like he said. And we're in the age of the plague, according fucking to Earthling Dead in the Head Ed.
Before the 1970s, a lot of people were talking about how we kind of gone past we're in like the post-infectious disease era. We'd eradicated smallpox, so we didn't need to worry about it anymore. And then because of our own doing and our own gluttony for these products and for cheap products, we've created potentially the worst era of infectious disease that's ever existed, just as we thought we'd come out of it. And
yeah, just when we thought we conquered infectious disease, we thought it was going to be a very dull field. Right. Unprecedented emergence. Now, it's not
Ed can't stop laughing at this fucking clown.
just animal agriculture, deforestation.
Ed, look at him. You notice some similarities, Ed. Look at you now. Look at you in the future, Ed. You already got the beard. Look, if you wait a few more years, you'll get the Dr. Gregor beard, but it's going to cost you your Jesus stew here. And I hope you like glasses. So it's almost like this. You're looking at Ed in the future transformation. Ed, this is what you're going to look like at 49 years old on the vegan diet.
Station has also brought some of these Rift Valley fever, Lassa virus, some of the which boosted by the bushmeat trade, like Ebola in Central Africa. There's
Ed, those are pretty expensive headphones you got on there. Those are Bose, aren't they, Ed? Those are expensive. Those are like $350 headphones. Where do you get your money from, Ed?
Number of South American hemorrhagic.
You know how I know this, Ed? Let me show you something. You see, Ed, these are the headphones that you got on. Mr. I'm an activist and I'm poor. You see, these are Bose headphones that he's got on. Those are very expensive headphones for somebody who claims he's an activist and just runs a restaurant. And he's just, he doesn't have any high net wealth.
Fever viruses that come when we are clear-cutting the forest down there. Livestock can then act as amplifying vessels for tick-borne diseases, mosquito-borne diseases, to take these primate viruses.
So you might as well call this one is the Disease Fair episode starring Fake Jesus and Uncle Festa.
And spread them in the human populations. Antibiotic use also plays a role in these emergence of these new emerging diseases that we can no longer treat with our armamentarium of antibiotics. So, but what all
That's
these
your future,
factors
Ed.
share is that these are changes in the kind of human-animal interface. Animals were domesticated 10,000 years ago, but never before did we see these kind of changes that we're seeing today. And unfortunately, we're suffering the consequences. That's why we really need to shift gears. And
so what Dr. Gregor is saying is basically right now we're suffering the consequences because C19 has been caused by eating red meat. That's what this whole dictation of bullshit session is about. And again, this clown got already flagged for that as being misinformation. Now I see where he got it from. These guys, again, they mentioned about 2 times about us buying these fucking fake knockoff products from animal-produced foods. 2 times they pitched them.
move away towards healthier production.
And it's interesting.
2 times in 23 minutes.
Said about we domesticated animals such a long time ago, but I think I remember it was you who was saying about how we could trace back the origins of, say, influenza to the domestication of ducks 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
No, we can't. That is a lie.
No. It's really important to realize bird flu viruses have existed harmlessly for millions of years, right? Harmless to both birds and people.
Your Turkish bird flu He's trying to take the regular flu we get every season comes from ducks. You see how he did that, people?
Important to understand. In aquatic birds, the virus is perfectly adapted. What's called total evolutionary stasis, harmless. But when thrown into a new environment, land-based birds like chickens, like which you can get at these live animal markets, then it quickly has to start mutating to adapt to its new.
So he's saying that all diseases are coming from these live animal markets, but somehow the meat that you buy at the supermarket is connected with it. So these guys better figure out their line of bullshit quickly, because it's not making no sense to me. I smell bullshit.
Host, because chickens aren't paddling around in the pond. This intestinal bug has to spread to the lungs, become an airborne virus. So, goes into chickens as an aquatic virus, but comes out as the flu, as it adapts to terrestrial birds. It also adapts to terrestrial mammals such as ourselves. And so until birds were domesticated, waterfowl were domesticated, there was no influenza. We never had.
So back in the day, before we domesticated animals, humans did not die of disease, according to Dr. Greger. Diseases didn't exist. They don't have an origin. What he's saying is it came from aquatic waterfowls. Then when people were out there hunting ducks and eating their eggs, what happened, Dr. Greger? You're telling me they didn't get this virus? This guy's a fucking liar, and he's not even a good one.
Had measles until we domesticated livestock. We never had tuberculosis.
We never had measles or tuberculosis until we domesticated livestock. You know something? This guy is a complete fucking boob. He's counting the chicken before the egg. Humans did not gather in villages and towns until we did domesticate livestock, because we had a common source of food. We didn't need to go wandering around following a herd anymore. We actually corralled the herd and domesticated them, so we wouldn't have to go out and get ran over by a wild ox. It's less risky, and it's got greater reward. And humans and human contact caused the spread of disease. When traders, like, I'll give you an example. How did the Black Plague get spread? Through trade. What kind of trade? The grain trade. Because the rats came over on the ships from Egypt with the grain and spread the bubonic plague all over the place. But not according to what you said to Happy Healthy Vegan. He says eating meat caused the bubonic plague. But any person who picked up a book in high school knows the bubonic plague came from rats that had the fleas that were infected with bubonic plague. They jumped in the boat with the grain shipments, and they came out and ran out into the countryside and spread the disease around. That's rats. Nobody was eating rats then, Dr. Greger. This fucking guy's a clown. He's a fucking clown.
Many of the greatest plagues in history came from when we bridled these animals. I mean, how common could the common cold be?
Could I ask you something? If that's fucking true, how are people in the city getting C-19 when there's no fucking cattle ranches in Central Park, you jackass?
If there's just some, wild ungulates out on the plain, but when we're blocked and bridled, close to human contact, they can jump species and rapidly adapt. However, we have that was the first age of disease.
I stand by my conviction. Both of you stand by yours. You're both much younger than me. Let's go meet in the back alley, and I'll read you the list of children that you guys contributed misinformation that killed them. And then we'll see who walks out of the alley. Both of you at one time.
And then
Disgusting.
came the Industrial Revolution. And then it was chronic diseases that really took the forefront.
Industrial Revolution actually caused the rise of modern medicine because people in confined spaces and factories tend to spread disease by human-to-human contact. It has nothing to do with domestic animals. It has nothing to do with it. If I'm overseas and you come to my country to buy grain, and some of the rats that are affected with the bubonic plague get on your ship, and then you transfer that grain back to your country, and those rats run off the ship, you just spread plant-based disease, I guess. If that's the way the doctors refer to how disease is spread, then that means grain caused the fucking bubonic plague. You see how stupid it is? On average, people eat about 2 ounces of meat a day. Don't listen to these fucking crackpots. He's an asshole.
I've been working on for about the last decade of my life, heart disease, the epidemics of obesity and high blood pressure, which are also tied.
You know what brings up my blood pressure? Listening to bullshit like this. Obesity. Of course we're obese. We live in a culture that's more sedate, that works less, and has plenty of food. That's the reward of progress. Now, unfortunately, we have Luddites like yourselves who think everything is wrong if people enjoy it. Let's just put it that way. And you just have to try to take it away. You'll have to defame it, blame it, whatever. I think it's because you lack self-identity and a moral stop block that'll cut you off, that when you intrude too much in other people's lives, you're going to get some kind of feedback. And if it's negative, you deserve it because it's negativity that you caused. People's children dying by following you guys' advice isn't going to get you looked as positive to anybody. If you think so, you're a fool.
Ironically, to eating the same diet, right?
Yeah.
And putting us out at higher risk for infectious diseases like COVID-19. Now we're in the third age with these emerging.
Lie. CDC says that handling or eating products, any kind of food products from a restaurant, whether you buy them in a supermarket, has very low risk of spreading C19. Again, the same lie that this clown on the left got nailed for, the right asshole is also saying. That's how you see how the lie spread.
Re-emerging infections, again, also tied to agriculture. So it's the food. We have to go back and think how we can.
It's not the food. The CDC says it's not the food. You fool. I have a video of it. Look at it, you friggin' moron. This is what happens when you don't complete medical school.
What we can do to prevent these in the future. Now in the age of.
Gee, I wonder why he dropped going for a PhD. Was it because he was unqualified for it?
Commercial global, airline travel, a virus can get out of our grasp within a matter of days. So we really have to prevent these diseases in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're writing.
You know something? A disease doesn't have to be only affected by a virus. A disease can infect your mind. It's called a ideology. An ideology would actually kills people. You're actually calling it healthy. That's a diseased, from a diseased mind.
A new book at the moment, is that correct? And it's
it
all
will
about
be out May 26th, How to Survive a Pandemic.
Nice.
I'm really excited to be able to.
Gee, he's not trying to sell something to you, and he didn't just bring it up on cue. You see all this? This is all scripted bullshit. He has a How to Survive a Pandemic. What's it going to see? Chapter 1. Eat kale. Fucking liar. These guys... Oh, God. Let me tell you, when I keep thinking of these children that died because the vegan parents were under these clowns' tutelage. I just want to get slap happy. I really do.
Use my infectious diseases expertise, which, I stopped working on about 10 years.
His expertise in infectious disease was something he wrote about, a little paragraph in a study a decade ago about mad cow disease. And he hasn't done a fucking thing since then. Still hasn't treated the patient, still hasn't done his residency, and still hasn't done his internship. So what expertise does he have? Fucking bullshit artist.
Years ago, because no one seemed to care about the threat of a pandemic, but that's changed now.
That's changed now. Since everybody's scared to get C-19, let me write a book on how not to get C-19 and survive a pandemic. Gee, we're not fear-mongering to sell a book, are we, Doctor?
And so I can use my infectious disease background to talk about.
You don't have an infectious disease background. That's the fucking problem, you boob. Where did you go to school for infectious disease? You're a general practitioner on nutrition. Where does it say infectious disease in that title? You bullshit artist.
The pandemic, survival, and prevention.
Excellent. Have you seen in the 10 years or so that we've been just talking about, have you seen a change in the conversation? Is there more of a discussion surrounding whether or not animal farming should simply be eradicated as opposed to preventive, because
you MPHs out there, you guys got to open your mouth, because these people are going to fucking destroy the public's health with their fucking vegan fairy tale information. There's a few of them that are out there. There's 2 MPHs that speak against them. Both of them were vegan. One of them got throat cancer, and the other, no, I'm sorry, both of them got cancer, I do believe. So, and they speak out against veganism because of their experience with veganism, plus their credentials. Not this fucking fool. Both of them. They're worthless. You vegans, if they told you to eat a rubber shoe tomorrow, you'd fucking eat it.
because obviously we talk about biosecurity a lot, but biosecurity in and of itself is never going to be a good deterrent from these pandemics start, or even just these outbreaks from starting. So have you seen conversations changing?
Yeah, no, biosecurity in industrial animal production, I mean, is wishful thinking. There are massive inputs and outputs inherent to, industrial.
You know what's wishful thinking? That veganism will cure all diseases. That's wishful thinking. And how many people died following that wishful thinking? There's 2 women I know that got breast cancer who thought veganism would help them be cured. They thought they were supposed to get it from being vegan. It didn't work out for them. Both of them are dead. That's wishful fucking thinking, Dr. Gregor.
Poultry production or pork production, water, feed, waste, provide, routes for introduction, release of the virus. High volume ventilation fans are required to keep, these hundreds of thousands of birds cooped up and blow aerosolized dust, dander, viral particles out into the surrounding countryside. You can pick up swine flu viruses a mile downwind out.
I worked on a farm for 10 years every summer. Never got sick. Can you explain that, Dr. Gregor?
Side of these facilities, look, you can't keep flies out of a factory farm. They've been found to carry influenza viruses. This is really just wishful thinking. And so we just have to.
And a vegan diet that cures everything and is 100% healthy for all human beings, that's as real as a fucking unicorn.
Not present the virus with this all-you-can-eat buffet of 45 billion new feathered viral hosts every year. Another billion curly-tailed test tubes every year. The only reason that these animals exist to get infected are because we make it that way. And if we were to stop doing it.
Of course, we make it that way. That's what Dr. Gregor says. The doctor that never treated anybody, healed anybody, never laid hands on anybody, never been in the hospital. Nothing. He's an expert. There goes your vegan expert, you fucking vegan assholes.
we would dramatically reduce our risk.
So do you think that in terms of the conversation, that conversation is moving forward within kind of like government official?
I mean, so it hasn't in terms of pandemic. I mean, it certainly has in terms of human health. There's just been an explosion in the interest.
Yeah. Let me sum it up. I'll just do a synopsis of this whole video. Buy all the fake vegan products and buy my book, and you won't die. Give me money, and you won't die.
Of plant-based protein these days. I mean, look at the dairy case. I mean, there are, massive dairy giants here in the States declaring bankruptcy because now there's this constellation of new consumer choices. If you provide consumers with a better product, they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
This chicken on crack is happy that people are losing their jobs and their businesses are going bankrupt. Just as he's happy if there'll be another infectious disease that kills off a whole bunch of us. So we buy more vegan products and follow his fear-mongering.
And so, I mean, yes, you can pass regulations to stop feeding, slaughterhouse waste to cattle to reduce the risk of mad cow disease. Or, you can just provide people with healthy alternatives. You don't have to worry about contaminated cattle brains in your oat milk.
No, you just have to worry about getting kidney stones from being on the vegan diet, catching E. coli from spinach that's been fertilized with human shit, which actually killed people, and watching yourself turn into Dr. Gregor. You see him and Ed? Ed, this is your future. In about 10 years, Ed, you're going to look like this.
So you're an advocate for changing the consumer and changing people's mentalities, then? Do you think that's an effective way of
Changing people's mentality doesn't improve their health. All right? Let's stop trying to blend nutrition with psychology, all right? Because it's going to turn out real bad, especially when you guys don't know nothing about either one.
Passing the problem in the future?
And look, and this is the same thing we're talking about with these exotic animal markets in Asia. Mm-hmm. People are not going to stop.
Back to the exotic markets back in Asia now. And we're going to use that to compare them to the American livestock practices, where we don't eat cats.
Eating rhino horns and tiger bones and pangolin scales and bats.
You left out snake oil.
All the laws in the world aren't going to do that because there'll be a thriving black market trade, which may be even harder to keep tabs on. And so it's all about changing the consumer's mindset. And there's been tremendous changes. Like, so for example, shark fin.
We want you to change your mind and buy the vegan products from our sponsors so they become incredibly wealthy, and some of the money will trickle down to us. Just fucking say it. Don't try to sit there and fearmonger and all this bullshit that you're saying, even though the CDC contradicted everything you fucking said in this whole video that you blabbered on for like a half an hour.
Soup. Used to be a very popular dish, but a number of groups, conservation groups, worked very hard to change the mindset of people, and all of a sudden, shark fin soup went from this really prestigious thing that you serve at weddings to all of a sudden, you carry a stigma. Mm-hmm. And so, all the laws in the world to protect sharks aren't going to matter if there's that demand out there, right? And so
So what vegans decide to do is to play mind games with people, to manipulate you. That's what they're telling you. They're trying to manipulate you. But the problem is with this kind of manipulation, it's in the hands of people who want to profit off of it. Their intention is not to do anything good for the rest of us, but to manipulate us into buying the products that they're pitching here.
Stop the supply. We need to stop the demand. And so let's make products that are so delicious, right? That are just, so cheap, convenient, delicious, that it's just like they just beat out the competition. No problem.
It's a nice way. I think it's a nice way for.
So how do you do that? How do you make something that tastes better than the actual product. You got to put additives in there like MSG. You know, you have to take an extract from beets to make fake blood. You know how much beets is like one of the most high oxalate things you can eat? What are they actually talking about here? Are they actually producing numbers that how many people have died from the pandemics that actually caught the disease, where there's a report that says so and so ate this meat and spread this disease to people and it killed 1,000 people. He got it from eating a steak. Is there any actual evidence of this presented in this video? No, none at all. There's not even any proof that the disease came out of China, out of Wuhan, from the wet market. Now it's being discussed that, yes, it did indeed come from the lab. And these guys are using the pandemic to fucking get your money. He's writing a book, How Not to Die in a Pandemic. And you idiots going to go out and buy it. But meanwhile, you can walk outside and somebody could have some kind of disease and just cough around. You got it, whether you're vegan or not. And if anything, if you're a vegan and you get it compared to a meat eater, the meat eater is probably going to live because he has substantial reserves to fight the disease. You, vegan, you got nothing. Your immune system's turned off by oxalates, but you won't pick up a fucking paper and read that because it goes against your ideology. All you want is more people to come in, as per these two clowns' instructions, so they have a higher chance of selling these fucking products. The same products that were left on the shelves when the pandemic first came, nobody wanted them. The whole store was cleared out, and then you would look at the fake meat, and nobody bought any. That tells you something. It has no nutritional value to stop anything. If anything, it has a negative impact on your health. Always the fake alternative is always had a negative impact on people's health. Like fake sugar, like saccharin. Are we going to have to go through that again? How many people got cancer from saccharin when they started taking the lab-made alternative? It's amazing how you people fall for the same trick all the time.
To maybe round up what we've been talking about, because I know you're incredibly busy. And I suppose one of the final questions, there's a sense of irony, isn't there, that with the Wuhan meat market, we think that the intermediary host might have been a pangolin. And one of the
Again, Ed, you got flagged by the PolitiFact by saying that meat was spreading all kinds of diseases, Ebola, HIV. They wouldn't exist in a vegan world, and PolitiFact said that was false. It's a lie.
reason the pangolin was in the market was because the scales are used for kind of like herbal medicine, and so there's the irony of people were going in there for medicine, and what they've got is one of the worst infectious diseases that's happened.
So what he's saying now is that they went in there for herbal medicine, which was, some kind of plant-based medicine, and they used the same scale where the meat was on, so that helped spread the disease, which never came from meat to begin with. How these guys concoct a lie and embellish it, it's really like something a 7-year-old does. And look at this fucking epitome of malnourishment. Oh my God.
Ever plagued humanity in that sense. And so there is definitely an irony in the way that we're all living, because it's also about people going into supermarkets and stockpiling bacon and chicken, and also same.
People are buying bacon and chicken instead of your fake meat. That's why they're upset, because they left your fake shit on the shelves to rot. Because it ain't worth shit. So what are you laughing about? You're not convincing anybody. You're just trying to use fear-mongering. Nobody wants your shit. It's a fucking marketing failure. Tell your capital venturist friends that pull your purse strings, you failed. That's it. Why? You worried they might want their money back? Consider you a bad investment?
Irony, right? So I think changing mindsets to those delicious products has to be the way. And I sincerely hope that maybe after this outbreak we do learn our lesson.
You don't teach lessons to anybody because you're not a doctor, you're a film student, you're not a nutritionist, you have no expertise on the fucking subject, neither does the other clown. He cherry picks other people's studies. He's never been involved in the study for himself. He added a couple of sentences to one study, not even study, editorial about over a decade ago. So there goes his expertise in agriculture.
I guess it's up to people like yourself and hopefully myself to
Unless you want to talk about his coffee table books sales. That's all he's an expert on.
keep spreading that, and hopefully we can influence consumers to make better choices for themselves and for everyone, including the animals and the planet.
The problem with that, Ed, is that you're not leaving it up to consumer to make the choices on their own. If you go and check your venture capital partner's website, they're actually talking about using legislation and subsidies to take meat off of everybody's plate. All right, Ed? So don't tell us we have a choice when you're running a fucking scam with a pack of Nazis.
As well. But yeah, thank you, Dr. Gregor.
Absolutely. So happy to help him. This is really, in terms of...
Dr. Gregor, I would use the term help lightly. You haven't cured a patient. You've been found to be pumping out fucking cherry-picking studies. You haven't cured anybody of any disease. You haven't come up to any life-saving alternatives at all. You're a charlatan. You're a fearmonger who just wants to sell books and profit off of people's fear.
Timing, there was already this surge of interest, and hopefully this will just kind of take it over the top. The kind of selfish concern about themselves, their families, their communities.
Oh, we're all selfish now because we care about ourselves and our communities. We're selfish now, see? If we don't follow the high and mighty Dr. Gregor, we're all selfish. You realize the tone of this guy's attitude toward the general population is one, he turned around and says, hope we all get sick to come to our senses and listen to him and buy his bullshit. Okay? And now, we're all selfish if we care about ourselves, our children, and the community. Unless we do the opposite of what we think and do what he says. And watch your children die from malnutrition. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm so selfish.
Will then translate into at least trying some of these products and then incorporating their...
Now, this is a half an hour. Every fucking 10 minutes on schedule. Try the new products. Try the new products. Don't be selfish. Don't be a murderer, an animal murderer. Try the product. Buy the product. You'll get a disease. Buy the product. Buy the product. Can you figure it out yet?
Their daily lives.
Can you figure it out yet? Do you have a problem? Can you hear me?
And as they get better and better and cheaper, and we will shift this away and, knock off a number of global crises,
Oh, Dr. Greg is going to knock out a couple of global price crises with just selling you some fucking fake meat. Come on, people. How stupid can you be?
At the end of our fork.
That's what the snake oils mans used to say. Oh, buy this product. It could do this, that. Oh, you need to take the fucking varnish off your furniture? Yeah, use this. It'll do it. Oh, your kid's got a cold? Yeah, give him a few ounces of this. Your horse's freaking hoof is wrecked. Just rub this on the horse's hoof. It's a cure-all. Typical snake oil scam.
Absolutely. And if I may make one recommendation at the end to any listeners is on Nutrition Facts on your YouTube channel, you recently re-uploaded the talk you did about a decade or so ago about how to prevent
a decade ago
pandemics, and it's definitely worth watching. Although it's a challenging listen when we
correction, over a decade ago. That's the expert.
To know what we're going through now, but there is that moment at the end where you predicted the toilet paper crisis, didn't you? And it brings a smile to everyone's face.
Well, of course he predicted the toilet paper crisis. Of course, he's full of shit.
in this sweet, ironic, potentially way. But yeah, excellent.
Yeah, there's a whole month-long series of videos coming up on nutrition facts about the current pandemic and what we can do to prevent the ones in the future. So yeah, stay tuned.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gregor, and thank you for all of your work as well. Your inspiration. I appreciate you very much for that.
Keep up the good work yourself.
Thank you. All right.
What a pack of bullshit artists. It's really disgusting. It really is. Then they say they don't kill any animals during the harvest. Then they find out that they do kill animals during the harvest. Well, it's unintentional. Then when a child dies of veganism and you tell them it's anecdotal, then you tell them, well, anecdotal evidence doesn't send the parents to jail for life. It has to be real evidence presented in the court. To the autopsy report. Child died from malnutrition. Which diet was he on? The vegan diet. Vegan diet is a road to malnutrition. It's that easy. These people are liars. They disgust me. They're vermin. They're the worst type of people on earth. They're the people, again, if you look at an old Western movie where the snake oil salesman comes in, yeah, they could do everything. They run the same skit. A little more sophisticated, but not much. And on that note, I'm out of here.